Well, hi, Dejoly. I'm so excited to have you today on the Seeking Sunshine podcast.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for asking me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm amazed by you and everything that you're doing, and I'm really thrilled to get to talk with you and hear your story and learn so much more about you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to share.
So, we're talking about doing what lights you up, and we were just talking about sewing and how much we both have loved and hated to sew. So, that has been really fun. But I know that you are such an amazing author and you have all these amazing books out. So let's talk about how you've lived your passions and made them part of what you do with your life, whether that was sewing or writing.
Well, for a while it was quilting because after I left my home and went into college, I said I'm done with sewing clothing.
Yeah.
So I still love fabric, the texture and the
Mm,
colors and all of that. We can
yes.
go into that,
Oh,
right?
I love fabric.
But I sewed up until quilted up until probably 5, 6 years ago, and I just started doing my business more and more, and it became a pile of fabric in the back room kind of
Hmm.
thing. So even though I was really turned on by quilting and creating and that kind of thing, my passion really has turned and really revealed itself as my writing. So in the process of doing my healing work from other stuff, I wrote several books, right? And the last one was a book of self-reflective meditations. You read it one page a day, and you meditate on what it is that came up for you during that reading. And
Mm,
it's called Greeting the Day, Wisdom from My Gardens. And so the other part of my passion is my gardens. I
mm.
love to see things grow, and I love the changes of the garden and how it goes from seedlings to mature plants to dying and recycling the plant into the ground
Rebirth.
and come back. Yes,
Yeah.
rebirth. Right, exactly. Just like the seasons.
Yeah.
So that's where I go with my passions. Living my life has been an interesting journey. Let me put it that way.
Oh, I love this. I feel like the theme that I'm seeing with each of these passions is creating something from nothing and the ability to see that these materials that you're making something out of is not nothing. When other people would look at a pile of fabric, and I've absolutely shared that passion with you. But when other people look at fabric or the ideas and the life that you're filling a book with or a seed, a lot of people look at these things and they don't see the potential
Right.
that
Right.
you see in them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a very good point because there are people who don't see that. And I often wonder about that, like how in the world could they not? But then they might have some other aspect of their life that they do see fully. They may not see mine, but they see theirs. And I may not see theirs for them, kind of thing. But I hold space for their growth and their potential and their progress. Yeah.
Mm. So talk about how you've been able to see this potential in things throughout your life, the ability to make something out of nothing. How has that looked as your life has gone on in different ways?
Well, initially, I'm not sure exactly where I should start, but that seeing um,
Yeah, that vision. It's
the
such a
vision,
gift.
yeah, the vision, the vision, and what for me was okay. I had to borrow other people's hope for me when I was going through my recovery process from childhood abuse, so I had to borrow their faith that things would work out, and allowed myself to see that it was possible. So it's an allowing as opposed to just, oh, yeah, yeah, I can see that. No, I couldn't see that, but I had somebody else saying, I know you can make it, right? So as that progressed, that vision that I had of my life changed. I thought I was doomed, before I had that faith that things would change. And then I moved into the potential of having good relationships. Well, learning from my past and living in my past, I didn't make good relationships. So then I had to do a vision of what I wanted in my relationships and then go for manifesting that. And so I do have that kind of ability to like let the past go and see the vision of what could be. So it's not just in fabric and it's not just in the words that I put in the book, but it's also in my life where I had to just it's kind of mix of faith and vision, um, faith in myself that I can do it, faith in the universe that it provides for me no matter what, keeps me from being in the lack mentality, you know, and keeps me in the positivity of the possibility, you know. Of course, you can always say that it's possible that I'll fail, but for me, I'm the half full cup, it's possible that I could be very successful. So
Yeah.
that's what I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, and for each of us, it's like, yeah, we're gonna fail, but failure is only another step towards the winning and the success that we're seeking out. And you said something amazing about faith and and vision. And I feel like faith is vision. Faith
Mhm.
is having that vision, the greater perspective.
Mhm.
Faith is kind of borrowing God's vision for our life, right?
Mhm.
And
Right. Well,
it's so powerful.
I think for me, there are two quotes that I go, and faith is knowing beyond um, doubt, knowing beyond doubt.
Mm.
You don't have to be proven to believe. And then the other one is Martin Luther King's famous statement of faith is taking the next step, even if you don't see the rest of the staircase.
Mm,
So it's the believing and the knowing come together in the vision of there's something at the top of that staircase that I want, and I'm willing to take the next step, whether and you said something brilliant, and that is that failure is just another step in the process. And who's measuring failure anyway?
yeah.
And I don't. I say we progress, and there are lots of things that are going to happen, and we can assign it some sort of negativity. We can assign it failure, or we could assign it, oh, there's a blip, or we could say, I'm going to pivot. I mean, there are lots of different ways to view those things that don't come out. A lot of people say they make a bad decision. I say they made a decision that wasn't comfortable for them, but they went through the consequences of that decision and made a different decision. And, to me, it's like there are no bad decisions, just like there aren't any good decisions. They're just decisions. We assign the good and bad to it. Like I
Yes.
was talking to a friend about body image and weight and mindfulness. And one thing that she said that has stuck with me like crazy is that fat is just a noun.
Mm,
It's not a death sentence. It's not horrible. It's not ugly. It's just a noun. We assign our own emotional attachment to the word.
mm,
So it's kind of like, ooh, yeah, that's right. I made it bad. I took on all of the belief from the society around me that said fat is bad. You're fat. You're ugly because you're fat. I remember in 10th grade, my mother used to put a bologna sandwich or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in my lunch bag and an apple and a cookie. And I would drop the sandwich and the cookie in the trash and walk and eat that apple because I thought I was fat.
mm.
And right now, that look that I had would be considered to be glamorous, as I was like the perfect hourglass figure at that time. But I thought I was fat.
Mm.
So, so we have, to realize our words are very important. They give meaning that isn't necessary.
Mm. It's so true. I mean, I was in middle school and I was afraid to be seen eating in front of people because I was
Mhm.
afraid people would perceive me as as fat because they saw me eating. And so I
Mhm,
would not be
mhm,
seen eating
mhm,
in front of people. Didn't matter what it was. I just didn't want to be seen as that. And
mhm,
I mean,
mhm,
I feel like it's a topic that so many people can relate to. I mean, I specifically, like, I had weight loss surgery almost 4 years ago in 2020. And it's absolutely a thing that we've all had to deal with in our culture, but especially as women and especially as moms because of
mhm,
the way that our bodies are built. And it's
mhm.
our bodies are so beautiful and we don't appreciate everything our bodies do for us.
That's right. I mean, what's really interesting is that some people are very large and they have the issues of, like you had, and I'm sure I've had. But I wasn't a huge person, but I had these large arms
Mm,
underneath here, right?
yep,
So I wouldn't wear shirts that people could see that because
yep.
I was so, so conscious of that. And when she said to me, fat is just a noun, my goodness, that changed my whole world about my arms, you know.
Yeah.
And then I have another friend in the quilt, Julia
Yes.
Christine,
Hmm.
um, and she created a bath ritual, which I love.
Yes.
I love that bath ritual, and so it's allowed me to continue loving my body in a way that isn't supposed to be by society standards. We are told that we have to meet a certain standard for our weight, for our looks, for our hair, for our makeup, for everything that we do as women. We're told what we're supposed to be by outside issues like TV. I remember
Hmm.
back in the day, I don't, you may not be able to remember this, but there was a woman named Twiggy. I don't know if you remember her. She was
I recall the
pencil
name. Yeah.
pencil thin, pencil thin, and everybody was trying to emulate her body image because that was at that time, that's the way women should look. Well, there were so many women that went into hiding, so to speak, and just like you, not wanting to eat in public, not wanting to eat around anyone else because people were so free about making comments about what we were eating. And so we had this self-image that was kept getting worse and worse and worse because of, you know,
Mm.
the television was promoting Twiggy. It was promoting like thin, jaundiced kind of, facial structure and skinny, tiny arms. She probably weighed 110 pounds at the most, and she was 5'9". So yeah, she was very thin.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I don't know how we got off on that, but that body structure for women has been a real
Yeah,
issue.
well, and my favorite, I don't know, to tie this all up is my favorite thing way to wrap this up is in the Barbie movie, we see that very epic
Oh my goodness, yes.
line, where she's going, we're kind of wrong no matter what we do. It doesn't
Right.
matter if we are super thin, we're underweight and we're wrong for being too skinny. And it doesn't matter if we are, overweight, now we're wrong for not loving our bodies enough. And as women, like, we're wrong no matter what we do. And it's this
And we're
double
not supposed to
standard.
talk about
But
it.
we're not supposed to talk about it, and we're
No.
supposed to love ourselves no matter what, but we're also supposed to be thin, and we're also supposed to be this, and
Yeah.
it's this.
I love that speech she gave.
Yes, it's
Yes.
fantastic. I kind
Yeah.
of
I
adore
share
the
it with
Barbie movie.
everybody.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And the whole thing comes down to stop worrying so much about what other people think and be you.
That's
Love
exactly right.
your body for all the
Mhm.
amazing things
That's
that it
right.
does for you. I've also struggled with big arms my entire life.
Hmm.
And when I sit and think about how much my arms have done for me, how many times they have lifted my kids or stopped my kids from, I don't know, painting up the house, or how many times they've not stopped my kids from painting up the house, or how many times you know, they've snatched my kid from getting hit by a car, or how many times they've like,
Exactly. Exactly.
done, how many times my arms have dosed my son with insulin for his diabetes. Like how many things my arms have done for me. and how
Mhm.
many things that your body has
Mhm.
done for you. Like we
Mhm.
should be loving our bodies because our
Mhm.
bodies do amazing things for
Thing.
us.
That's
And
right.
we are assigning all this meaning of good and bad, and it's all stupid because our bodies are incredible
That's right.
and
That's
they
right.
allow us all these things. And when you look at these people who don't have what you have, there are people who would be so grateful to have the arms you have.
Mhm. Mhm.
There are
Yeah.
people who would just be so grateful to have the legs you have.
Yeah.
Like
To have legs at all.
gratitude,
Mhm.
gratitude
Yes.
is so important.
Right, right.
It really is.
When I start my morning with my gratitude list, that puts me in a whole new world of maybe I woke up tired, but then I write my gratitude lists and I'm like, oh man, I'm grateful that I can even get out and walk in the driveway or whatever, because I'm considered an elder by many people. And although I don't feel like an elder most of the time, but I have a very healthy body. And part of that is because I listen to myself instead of everybody else. Like, people saying, oh, you're feeling that way because you're that old. Well, no, I'm feeling that way because, or I'm not feeling that way. Don't assign me any kind of feeling. Don't put that off onto me. Just like society has put off onto us women as women what we're supposed to look like, they're also putting off onto elder women what they're supposed to be and how they're not supposed to be and how they are at the end of their lives and they're, all of that. And I'm like, I'm in a business, I'm starting a
Your
business.
life is just beginning.
My life is just beginning,
Whew.
so I don't buy into that, I don't buy into what society says about elder women.
We decide what we're
That's right.
capable of. We
Exactly.
are in charge
That's
of
right.
our own potential,
That's
and
right.
our potential is limitless. It doesn't matter what limits society perceives you have.
Hmm. Hmm.
Your capacity for growth is
Hmm.
completely limitless. And I see
Absolutely.
this I've got 3 kids with special needs. I see this in my kids all the time. Like I've got a severely autistic 12-year-old, and there was a time when I thought he would never be able to talk.
Hmm.
And I gave up, actually. I completely gave up on him ever talking. And then he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and he started talking. And it was
Huh.
the most miraculous thing ever. And now he talks all the time, and I often wish he would shut up because he yells at me all day long. But, his potential. And
Mhm.
I was doing a meditation the other day, and it came to me just this idea that, like, I've always had this kind of vision, like we were talking about, like this vision of I want to create a he's always been obsessed with horses and cows, and I wanted to create like for someday when he's an adult, a farm, a ranch for disabled adults to go live at and to run. And then it came to me that maybe he wouldn't be just a person living at this ranch, but maybe he could someday have the capacity to be in charge of it.
Wow, cool.
And like that idea had never struck me before, but for my mind to be open to that possibility was like almost like my heart stopped, like, "Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
that's possible."
Yeah, well, there's that
And
saying that if you dream it, you are meant to have it, right?
yeah, and it's like we limit ourselves
Hmm. Hmm.
so often. We are our own biggest enemies when we stop ourselves from
Hmm.
reaching our best
Hmm.
capacities, and we're capable of so much more than we
Hmm.
allow
Hmm.
ourselves to do
Hmm.
and be and become.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we do have the capacity to sabotage ourselves, don't we? If
Mhm.
we live in our ego and don't set it aside sometimes, then it's always going to tell us that it will continue the cycle of that a negative mindset if we let it.
Yeah.
but to be mindful of it, to realize that it's happening and stopping it, or at least modifying it. I mean, I call my ego Farquaad. I don't know if you remember the Shrek movie.
Oh, we're
Far
a little bit obsessed with Shrek at our house.
Oh, I
I think I've
love
seen
that.
it
I
hundreds of
love
times.
that.
We
I
love Shrek.
love that. Good, because I love that. And somebody asked me what's my favorite movie, and I say Shrek, and they go, "What?" You know, but I call mine Farquaad, and I tell Farquaad to get in the back seat. I'm driving the car, and if he doesn't get in the back seat, I'm going to put him in the trunk. So, I think
Love it.
we have to have some fun with it as well, because we can really be critical of ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we see ourselves if I see myself allowing Farquaad to stay in that driver's seat for very long, I'm like, oh my God, I am horrible, aren't I? Oh my God, so I have to be aware that he's taken over that driver's seat, and
Yes.
that's my turn to say, no, 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 go sit in the corner while I do this, or I'm going to
Yeah.
put you in timeout, that kind of thing. So yeah, we have to have some fun with it, not be so critical on ourselves. But
Mm, I
I do
love
know,
that.
but we can continually get in that cycle of negativity, negativity, negativity. And when we have so much um, negativity, it just blossoms and gets bigger and bigger. So that's why I do the mindful practice in the morning, the yoga and the
Mm.
gratitude list and meditation, because that's the way I keep on top of it.
Yeah, those oh, amazing. So I would love to talk about how you used, those things in particular when you were very first deciding that you wanted to write a book and all of the Farquaad voice was coming up in your mind telling you, wait, what are you thinking? How did you get out of that and decide to, step into your power and start writing
Well,
and to be an author?
I was told when I was asked by my therapist to write my first book, and she died before I got it written. But I did dedicate it to her. And the thing is that I saw myself as, if I can live through the memories of what happened, I can live through the reality of what's going to happen. My potential is far better, far greater than my past. So I had to just keep stepping over the bumps in the road, so to speak. I had to just keep going, because I knew the book had to be written. And I started going around speaking. I was on Fox TV, and I was on a few other places, plus going around to conferences and speaking about healing from extreme abuse. And I needed a book. I felt as if I needed a book to take with me as a reference, so that it could kind of give me some credibility, right? I mean, I thought about that after a while, like, who's gonna write my story? I'm the one who could write my story. I don't have a PhD, and I'm not a social worker, and I'm not a therapist and all that stuff. But I lived my life. So who's going to tell it if not me?
Mm,
It took me so much just to get past the imposter syndrome of, but you're not a therapist. You don't have all those letters after your name. Who's going to believe you anyway? All of that stuff kept coming up, and those were programs like, um, life programs from everybody. You aren't good enough to do that. You aren't smart enough to do that. But I knew that I was a good writer, so I went ahead with it. And I wrote the book, and then I went on to write another one, and then I wrote another one. So I've got 4 books out there, and I'm starting a fifth one. But
amazing.
it is a matter of stepping over or setting Farquaad aside. I finally named him after after
Love it.
years and years of after years and years of saying my ego is blah blah blah, and I'm saying, no, Farquaad, no, get in this corner. Just go over there for now, because that's kind of it's a false humility. of if you let your ego stay in the way, I can't do that, no, that's okay, I won't do that. But in reality, inside you have that potential. And if you don't allow yourself to live that potential, then you're actually being fake. You're actually not letting your fullness come out and show the world. So when people say they like you and you're holding back, then they're only liking part of you, right?
Mm,
They're not
that's so
liking the
powerful
they're not liking the fullness of who you are.
because you're not showing them the fullness of who you
Exactly.
are.
Exactly. So if you don't show them, then they just like a piece of you. And you know that. And so you keep telling yourself they wouldn't like you if they really knew you, right?
And how could
That
you know
how
if you
would you
don't
know?
show them?
Exactly. And that's where it evolved into just be your authentic self, Dejoly. Just be who you are. And if they don't like it, they're not your person. And if
Mm,
they do, great.
yeah.
If they do, you can have some great conversations, like I'm having one with you. So but you don't know me fully, but you know that I'm authentic. You know that I'm not going to play games and pretend that I'm not something that I am, because I am a really good writer. I'm a good teacher. And I love to play and I love to listen.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
and we've
my,
reached a point in this world, especially with like social media and our individual abilities to put up filters in what we
hmm
present to the world, where we are just craving authenticity
Yep.
everywhere.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
we just need it from each other so badly
Mhm.
because so much of
Yeah.
what we're getting from the world is fake.
Exactly. And sometimes all we need is for someone to sit with us and just listen, or just be there, not necessarily to do or fix or
Yeah.
say or anything, just to
To
be there.
witness.
Yes, to witness who we are and what we're going through, and to have an understanding of it's big. Just it's big. It doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be your experience for you at the moment is big. And I have to acknowledge that and appreciate that for you, with you. That's where I sit with it.
Yeah, if it matters to me, then it matters.
Correct,
And
exactly.
period, end of story. Like it doesn't have to
Yeah,
matter to the whole world. It doesn't have to matter to the whole block. The fact that it matters to me is enough.
that's right, exactly. That's right.
And that one is hard for people to grasp and to understand. We tend to write off
hmm
the things that don't seem so big to us, that don't seem
Right.
so consequential. And then we tend to have that guilty feeling of, well, who else does this matter for? And then we tell ourselves that it's unimportant when
Mhm.
your emotions are important and you do
Yes.
get to validate your own
hmm
feelings.
hmm And that was one of the things I came up against when I was writing my first book, and that is that well, it was after that. It was people read it and they said, "Oh my God, now I went through some stuff, but I didn't go through that, so mine can't be in any importance,
Yes.
right?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, oh no, your your sense of sensitivity of what's going on around you, if it's important to you, it's important. If it's traumatic to you, it's traumatic. It doesn't, there's no scale and no judgment about what anybody else is going through, because that's their pain, their joy, their elation, their celebration, their sadness, their grief. It's theirs. And I don't have a judgment about it. I sit with it. I allow it to happen and I hold space for people doing that.
Yes. We
Yes.
need so much more of this holding space for each other. We don't do
Mhm.
that enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of that's because people don't speak up and say what kind of pain they're in. Because if
Mhm.
we don't know, then we can't help. We can't hold
Mhm.
space. Although I think in some aspects of prayer have to do with holding space for people if you're not trying to fix them through prayer.
Yeah.
Um, but by just saying holding space, I'm holding space for the people in pain in the world, then that's a big, you know, prayer. And if there's someone close to me that's in pain, I hold space for that, but I don't try to fix it. They're on their path, whatever path that is. I just know for the greater good, allow them to have their experience and, you know,
Yeah.
not try to change it.
Yeah, and it's like, why don't we hold space for people? Because our world is so fast-paced. Because we can't bear to just stop and
Yep,
pause in the moment. And we
right.
learn this skill through meditation and through slowing down, but so much of our world is just like go, 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 move on, move on, move on, move on, keep going. And it's like, nope, it's actually really important to
Yes.
stop and just be.
Yes, it's
Your
very
va
important.
your value's not increasing the faster you go.
No, no, no. That's a good point right there. Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, in fact, we wear ourselves out. And the funny thing is, it's kind of like the hare and the turtle, the tortoise, where the turtle got there,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And it didn't matter
Exactly
that
right.
the hare was running around like crazy. So the slower pace for me, not because I'm an elder, but because that's the way I have always been is, but then I go for things like, for instance, I have a really exciting thing that building right now. And, and it's like, oh, I gotta, my therapist used to tell me that she had to be careful about what she would tell me would be helpful to me to move into because she knew that I would go do that and four more things.
Oh,
So
I
I,
get that.
I ended up doing a lot more work than she thought I was going to do in a short amount of time.
Oh, I relate to that a lot.
So, but yeah, we move at our own pace, and I think we have to be honored. We have to honor that pace. We can't be judgmental about our pace. We do it in our own time. And whether, and at my age, I say, what can be so important that you have to do it like right now, Dejoly, right? Like, okay, go smell the roses, go put some seeds in the ground, and come back in and maybe get on a call or something like that. But um, yeah, I have a lot of things that I've done I'd say in the last 5 years that I never thought I would do.
Mm,
Yeah.
there's so much value in slowing down and soaking up the moment and
hmm
appreciating,
And celebrating.
yeah, and
Because,
celebrating.
as women, we don't get celebrated. We don't get to celebrate our small steps, our small successes, our small anything, any movement forward. We don't get to do that unless we take we hide our celebration, like
Yeah,
I'm gonna go have a cupcake because I did thus and such. But you don't tell people that. You
right.
serve a whole bunch of cupcakes to everybody, and then you have yours and you go, that's because so
Yeah,
if
it starts with
don't keep
celebrating ourselves.
hmm
And what's more is like doing it out loud, doing it
hmm
publicly, which sounds so scary and so foreign and so inappropriate to celebrate yourself out loud. Like, ooh, I did something
don't,
amazing. What? Like
don't
I
you
was,
love
yeah, I was listening. It was actually to Tracy Litt's prompts on that course, and she was saying, like what came to me was what women do I know who are examples of resting? And I was like, I can't think of any. Yeah, you're amazing. But I was like, what like big examples in my in my life do I have of that like that are in my face all the time? And I was like, I don't like my mom's a super hard worker all the time. Like my dad's trying to get her to stop working all the time. I was like, the examples of women in my life growing up were all like, no, you work hard all the time.
Yep,
It's like
yep.
so many of us grew up with that. And it's like, we need more examples in our
hmm
lives of the value of women resting.
That's right, right. Well, as a child living in my home, we weren't allowed to even sit on our beds.
Mm.
We weren't allowed to rest. We had to be always doing something. And that if we weren't, we were not, contributing,
Yeah,
right? And
that
so
word
that
contributed.
mentality went through my life with me for so long. And finally I just said, no, I I was forced to rest at one point and just stop and deal with the abuse and then move forward. But I learned that in that process of having to stop and deal with stuff, I started having a slower pace because I said, there's nothing going to kill me. There's nothing going to be so important that I have to do it right now, right? And so it is something that women in general are taught to do. You provide all the comfort for everybody else, right?
Yeah,
You do, and then you can't just be.
yeah.
Because if you be, then people look at you as not contributing. Or in your mind, you think they're looking at you like that, when in their own mind, they're thinking, oh, I don't think I'm contributing at all.
Yeah, right. They're in their mind, they're thinking about
It's
themselves.
that's
That is
exactly right.
like such an ultimate truth that we forget that like everyone around you is actually ultimately pretty selfish and probably thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you, they're thinking about themselves and probably about how you're thinking about them. And you're
Yeah,
not. You're thinking about how they're thinking about you.
exactly. That's totally true. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So tell us more about your books and what you're doing right now.
Okay. I my books go through a process. It's actually from, one process of healing from abuse through to my third book, which was about what happened to you. There was a shooting in Florida where a man went into a bar and he shot up a bunch of people, and there was a lot of negativity pointed at him, saying he was such a bad man. And my feeling all my life has been, what happened to you to make you the way you are? So I
No,
wrote
I have to
so I
tell you my
wrote a book.
quote.
I wrote the book called What Happened to You.
Ah,
And then later it came out, Oprah was coming out, well, we don't know what happened to him to make him that way. And I'm like, yeah, you said what I just said. I
ooh,
only
I
know
have to tell you my quote.
what.
My favorite quote that I say, I swear on every podcast, is from Frozen, and it's people
Oh,
make bad choices when they're mad or scared or stressed, which just
yes,
goes so
yes.
perfectly with your
That's
book.
right.
And
And mine is it's a 12 step, it's HALT. Never make a decision when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
oh, I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I went through that, and then I thought, I there was a time when COVID was going on and there were a lot of people being isolated, and my friends were starting to get into that depression, right? And so we were emailing, and I said, no, I can't do this negativity any longer. I'm going to be the one to start the positivity. So I started sending out pictures of my garden and my relationship with the garden and what I thought of when I was in the garden. And it would be only like maybe 3 or 4 lines, right? But I learned from somebody, one of the women who was saying, getting them said, you ought to make a book of this. You ought to write a book, and or make this a picture book. And I'm like, oh. So I decided that I would take those emails and change them into actual pages of the reflection of what I experienced with my garden. And so it changed from ritual abuse. I mean, I don't know how much you can know about on this show, but the abuse to
Yeah.
to now I'm into meditation. You read a page a day and you reflect and you meditate on that. So my next book is I'm starting that in April. I have a
Exciting.
I have a program called Write and Rise, WRITE and Rise, because as you write your story, your whole being rises out of sadness and everything else to, oh, now I've released it to the world. I've told everybody my story, and now I can live my real life kind of thing. So it's a Write and Rise, and it's a membership program, and where they have me 4 weeks. They have me, every week they hear something from me, and they get a workbook that I've written about how to write it, how to write their story. And
When does it
I'm
start?
what?
When does it start?
It starts the first week, first Friday in April. Start.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's a 4-week program, and then 4 weeks you can continue it if you want to, because sometimes, I mean, I wrote a book in 2 weeks. So there's a difference of, like, some people think it's really hard to write a book. It's really hard to get published. It's really hard, and they make it hard. Where if you see it as when we were talking earlier, the potential is there for immediate publishing, right? Because things are different from what they were when I was coming up. You had to have a publisher and you had to have an agent and you had to submit it to 59,000 people where it all went into the trash, you know. And so now they've made it self-publishing so easily. Books on demand is so easy. And so I teach how to do that. I do workshops and I do this program. And then I have another one that I'm going to when does this show come out?
Well, I was thinking that we might move it up a little so that it it it'll be right after your thing starts. It'll be like the second week of April.
Okay, that's okay. Um, but so I may by then be able to say to the whole world that I'm planning a writer's retreat in
Ooh,
in October.
exciting.
Yeah. You know, when I was quilting, I wanted to go to a quilter's retreat because I thought that was the one place I could put everything out and not have to pick it up, you know, because I had, all my fabric and then I could meditate. And for me, quilting was more of a meditation than
Yeah,
work, right?
yeah.
So that's what I'm envisioning for a writer's retreat. It's just going to be a short one, but it will be something where they get a one-on-one in, with me and nature, because I live in the woods, and the place that I plan to have it is in the woods on the river. And we
Amazing.
have a lot of beautiful scenery around here, and it's a time in October when the leaves will be so colorful and just beautiful. And so we're going to have uh, 2 days of just being with each other and writing and seeing nature. And we also have um, around here, we have a festival once in the fall and once in the spring. And the fall one is to celebrate the colors. It's called Color Fest.
Awesome.
And so that'll be going on. And also, it's my birthday weekend. So I'm going to
Oh,
celebrate my birthday.
awesome.
So I'm going to celebrate my birthday with 7 wonderful women.
Well, and then this episode will air the day after my birthday. So
Oh, cool. Cool.
that'll be
Yeah.
so fun. So,
Yeah.
as we wrap up, tell us all the links and all the places that we can find you and your books.
Okay. My books and my art and my writing is at dejoly.com, www.dejoly.com. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook, and I'm also in the quilt. Uh, So anyway, that's where they can find me, those places. And
I
my
love
books
it.
are also on Amazon if they want to get that.
Awesome. Well, and now I want to hear all about your art. So,
Well, I have some hanging right over there and right there.
my episode right before this one is a solo episode called well, I don't know what it'll be called, but it's about Les Artistes, which is what I'm dubbing my son who is painting up my whole house. So,
Well, I write I mean I paint the emotions that come up.
I
I
love
don't
it.
I don't have a thing that I write that I paint. I paint. Can I just reach for this one and show
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Oops, there it is.
That
There.
is stunning. That is gorgeous.
And do you know what that is? I was in a place of great grief. I had discovered an underlying theme in my life, and I was grieving over the loss of certain things. And that picture that I painted is called An Ocean of Tears, because it just felt like I would never stop crying, you know.
Yeah.
So that's one of my newer ones.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Everyone should go check out your art because they probably can't see it.
Yeah, it's on my Dejoly.com website.
Oh, I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we talk a lot about art in my other episode
Ah,
and
that'll
emotions.
be nice. That'll be
Yeah,
nice. Yes.
'cause we love art at our
Yeah.
house a
Yes.
lot. So this has been so much fun. I have really loved getting to know you and talking to you. You are just a joy.
Thank you. Thank you. And
So
you are too.
thank you. I we have so much in common. This has been really fun.
Yes. Yes. I appreciate you having me on, and I
Yeah,
hope
thank
people do
you.
go to see that. Uh, the website so they can get in on the writing program and also possibly the retreat.
Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.